everyone. Welcome back to Absolutely. My name is Benny, and that is Sal. And today we're going to be talking about Sandman. But before we get into that, please check out our sponsor, G Fuel. I had to spin it at the wrong side. And if you want to see this channel continue to grow and be a part of the family, consider joining our YouTube memberships, where starting September, you're going to be getting exclusive shows over there about more generalized topics. All right. Today we're going to be talking about Sandman. And how many episodes did you watch?
I've seen 4.
Okay,
I'm
on 7 now, so...
I watched the first 2 or 3, and then I watched the last one, like the bonus one of the Dream of Cats, and Dream of 1,000 Cats, and Calliope, of course.
And you are a fan of the Sandman comics.
I am. My wife is the Sandman expert, and through osmosis, I have learned so much about Sandman. I remember as a kid... Sandman coming out and being a big deal, and me being like, that's some hoity-toity reader stuff. No thanks. Spider-Man all the way. But I did read it, and I'm like, this is some highbrow stuff. Yeah.
Well, I see. I've never read Sandman. I still haven't, because that's kind of the reaction. I always was like, it's kind of highbrow stuff. And if I'm going to do highbrow stuff, I have stuff that I'm already reading. So whenever I would try to work Sandman into my schedule, something would bump it. Normally a manga or something, but
yeah. Oh, naturally.
Yeah, but I would end up not reading it. And then as we heard about the show, I thought it'd be fun if I watched the show with zero knowledge on Sandman as a comic book character. But you know the character of Sandman as a comic. So I'm currently on episode 7, and you just said you watched 1 and 2 and the last one.
Yes, I might have watched the third one. I don't remember. I think I did.
Well, I wanted to preface with, because I was a little confused with the formatting of the show.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of an anthology series, and I wasn't aware of that at first. I thought we were going on an adventure of him getting his stuff back.
Yeah, that is kind of an indication. I mean, that is certainly the plot of the first volume, which is called Preludes and Nocturnes. And I should say, by the way, if you are interested in Sandman, you should buy all of it and read it. But the first volume, Preludes and Nocturnes, that is the story that sets up the plot or the concept of Morpheus being captured in mistake of his sister death, and his accoutrements getting stolen from him, and then him having to reclaim them. Also, the Dream Kingdom being in disarray, and him having to kind of rebuild it. There's a plot to the first volume and subsequent volumes, but there are a couple of volumes throughout. Okay, really quick. When Neil Gaiman first wrote Sandman, he didn't know there was going to be more, because he figured they wouldn't make more. And so he wrote the first volume, Preludes and Nocturnes, kind of as and that's kind of it. And when it became a sensation and he was able to do more, they progressed the story, and that became The Doll's House, which is another book that is kind of being crammed into this as well. Or at the very least, it certainly paid off. There are a couple of key moments from The Doll's House, which is volume 2, that are in this show. I haven't gotten to those sequences. There's a great serial convention that I really, really want to see. That's essential. The Corinthian was introduced in the beginning of this show, who is a character that is from The Doll's House. Right. And so they're mixing and matching. But
well, I mean, like I said, the anthology format is interesting because we are following the theme of him getting his powers back and getting the stuff, but it seems like that's just a way to get from point A to point B while we tell the story in the middle of it. One that really stood out to me was the diner sequence, which I don't know if it's in the comic book. It's episode 4 or 5. He gets the ruby.
Yes, it is in the comic, and it is some haunting stuff. That's right. I haven't seen episode 3. I have not met Joanna Constantine or Constantine. But I do like, because for those who don't know, Constantine and Constantine is a constant. It's kind of like a Ra's al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul thing. It's a constant debate. So I like that they hammered in the other version in this one, because you have Constantine and this is Constantine. And I had to do a little bit of research on that, actually, because I was waiting for John to show up at some point. But I guess I forget her name, the actress who is being Joanna, did so well with Joanna as that past version, the one that does show up, and you didn't get to that sequence either, where he has it's when he meets up with death, and they also throw in a man who he meets up with every 100 years because he can't die. Yeah. They throw in Joanna there, and I guess she did so well that he's like, I just want her to be Constantine. So she's just going to be Constantine. They legally couldn't use John Constantine.
Oh, is that the reason?
They just couldn't use him. It was one of those things where they're like, and I think there was some chicanery. It wasn't just, they either couldn't afford to pay to do the thing, but but in the comic, the role that Joanna, because there is a Joanna Constantine in the comic book, but she is a long distance descendant
And
of
that version
John.
shows up in the man that he meets every 100 years.
Right,
She's
right.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a Hob. Yeah, it's an incredible story, which is also in The Doll's House.
Another great story that I love, the man, like, I'm a fan of a classic novel known as Dorian Gray, which is kind of
Yes.
about a man who never dies, and all of his sins go into there. And the whole Hob thing kind of reminded me of that, where it's like,
Yeah.
a guy that every 100 years we get to see what he's doing.
Right.
And here he fell out of favor, but now he's doing well. But now, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah,
a
every
good
100
thing.
years, it's like he's in a different place, and
Yeah.
and I love the like in the comic version, it's a fun distraction that like it's actually a break in the Doll's House. Like there is a narrative that's going on that has a lot to do with like the girl and her family and her grandmother and the Doll's House in general, and what we get to in this is just like a break where we're like, here's a fun story, and
Right.
How basically Morpheus like learns to have a friend.
Right, and that's what I'm loving about the show in general, and I'm assuming the comics move in a very similar format. Yeah, the theming is there, like he met up with Death because he didn't know what was going on, so we get to see Death kind of bring everyone to their final ends, and they have a big discussion, and then we move into the Hob portion of the episode.
Yeah.
And all of it feels disjointed from the overall plot of the ruby, the sand, the mask, and his powers and stuff like that. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh, here's a day in the life of Morpheus kind of a thing. And now it's how Morpheus learns how to make a friend, like you said.
Yeah. Well, and Hollywood loves the idea, and in fact, Neil Gaiman was just on a podcast recently where he talked about like the script that was written by the infamous John Peters of Giant Mechanical Spider fame, who had like a script written that was all about like the movie Sandman would be. We've got to get the helm, the sand, and the and
I
the
saw
ruby.
the interview with Neil Gaiman about that. He's like, they had
Yeah.
giant spiders.
Yeah, of course. But it's like that kind of focus. I remember being like, geez, this is gonna be like a whole like MacGuffin story, and it's like it kind of is, but they wrap it up very quickly. Like it's not
Right.
really about getting those things.
No,
back. He
that's
does get
resolved
them.
by episode 5. So,
Yeah,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
I've gone over how much I'm actually really enjoying the show.
Yeah.
But you're the comic fan. So you've watched episodes 1, 2, and the last one. How are you feeling about their handling of it in the show format? Let's go to that first.
There's I have criticisms, as you can imagine, but focusing on the positives, I should say that it seems to have an air of authenticity because Gaiman's at the helm, because he's integrally involved, and the people who are working on it have at least some respect/reverence for the source material. Like,
Okay.
if Hollywood made this in 2002, it would look nothing like this. If this was a show for FX, it would look nothing like this. And it's like there are a lot of elements, shots that are pulled directly from the pages, the overall plot, the attention to detail on certain aspects of story and character that are, if not spot on, spiritually on. And that's really cool, and I have a lot of respect for that. There are a couple of, and I think the guy who plays Morpheus is doing a great job with an asterisk next to it. And it's not his fault. I wish, and I'm echoing my wife's thoughts, but like I wish that he looked like Morpheus. And when I say that,
actually,
I mean,
I haven't even read Sandman, and that was
Yeah.
one of my first takeaways. Was like Sandman is an iconic looking character.
yes.
Like
Yes.
it'd be like changing how Superman looks or Batman looks,
Which they've
drastically.
done, and it's like weird. It's weird when
Yeah.
it's done. It's like Morpheus should have, and as I understand it, when they were making the show, like they went for like they tried the contact lens thing, and they tried to like make him, da da da. But like overall, the actor's eyes, and he needed to express, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, right on. Sandman's not real. Like Morpheus is a otherworldly being. He's of the endless. He's supposed to be unrelatable. Like he's supposed
Yeah.
to be disconnected from humanity. Like. There's a reason why his speech bubbles are different, like differently shaped and black with white
Well, I
text.
think the voice does a good job of kind of portraying a difference in him.
Absolutely.
The only odd point I find about that is
Yeah.
Lucifer, Death, all the other Endless.
Yeah.
Just talk like normal, and then Morpheus shows
Yeah,
up.
Morpheus does talk differently than the rest of them. Like Morpheus should be different, and I agree. Yeah, but I miss the cape, and I miss the big hair, and I miss the eyes, and it's like, for some Sandman fans, I mean, they've been talking about making a Sandman movie since the book came out, like since 1990, whatever, like 2.
Right.
Like they've been pushing this idea, and for it to finally happen, and with this great a detail, and with this kind of like involvement from Gaiman, and to have it be like, well, it would be unrelatable if he was totally white skinned, or if he had like the big hair, or if he couldn't see his eyeballs and stuff. And I'm like, but like that's who he is, though. Like it's
Yeah.
part of the reason why they did that in the comic book is because it looks like that, and it creates this disconnect. So that's a shame, but his voice is good. His emotions are good. Like, the way in which he portrays the character, I think works really well. In spite of all of that, it doesn't transcend it. It doesn't make it better. It just, I'm not complaining. You know, like I dig it. I'm like, hey, he's doing a good job. Like, there's a sequence. It's in the bonus episode with Calliope where I'm like, oh, he's doing the Morpheus thing. But even then, like, it's not as grandiose as I would like. Like, Morpheus is scary in the comic books, and in the show, he can be scary.
He has a grandiose moment when he gets the ruby back.
Yeah, he should.
When he fights John. Yeah, and
Yes.
he gets huge, and his powers are unleashed and things like that.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the only part where I'm like, wow, he really has a lot of power. Because other than the fact that I know he does have a lot of power, just from my knowledge of the comics,
Right.
he really just seems like a guy wandering around with blowing sand in people's face for the first four episodes.
He should not feel like that. You know, like, it should feel like, oh shit, like, who's that? You know, that should be the reaction, which is fine. My only other complaint is a complaint I have about Netflix shows, which is, there's something about the lighting on Netflix shows. Stranger Things is an exception. I think it's because they're shooting on location a lot of the time, but like, it's very flat. Like,
They do all feel the same. I will say that because I
Right?
watch a lot of Netflix shows, and they all kind of feel the same lighting-wise, palette-wise.
lighting-wise,
like,
camera-wise, it's a little flat. And for a book that is so innovative and so artistic and so, like, revered for its artistic expression, it should be shot weird. Like, it should feel almost like a Sonnenfeld movie or
almost like a Sam
Burton show.
Raimi thing. Slight
Right,
angles
like,
on things.
I would take some Raimi moments, but, you know, Raimi does it in such a way that it's kind of like joyful hackery, and I kind of want I want it to be like beautiful sweeping shots.
Yeah.
And these, like, and every episode's like $8 million or something, so it's like they have the money and budget for it. I just wish it were a little more creative looking.
Okay.
You know, but the comic book does that, so you're good.
So as I looked into this once I started watching the show, because the only knowledge I have of Sandman is what it's generally about, and that it's an old book, and I never got around to reading it.
Right.
So when we heard the show, I was like, well, I'll just watch the show first, because I think it'll make our review interesting. Because now I'm interested in reading the book.
Yeah.
Which led to me doing some Google searches, and a lot of the controversy that came out of this was the actors swapping, race swapping, gender swapping, all that other kind of stuff.
Yes.
As someone who hasn't read the book, none of that has bothered me. 'Cause
Okay.
my argument since the dawn of, like, this entire stupid argument that everyone likes to make, that there's an agenda to everything and all that crap, is I don't agree. I think if you're looking for an agenda, you can find an agenda. I personally feel we should just be hiring the best people for the jobs, regardless of anything.
100%.
And every time someone would give Neil Gaiman crap, like the best example is Death. The
Right.
black woman is playing Death. It's a very pale punk rocker person in the comics. I saw that one. And his constant response was always, we hired the best for the job. Someone that I felt embodied that person the best.
Sure.
And now learning more about the Endless and how they pretty much are just however they want to be. They don't really have to be anything.
Right.
To me, watching the show, I'm like, okay, well, that's Death, and she's doing a great job. That's Lucifer, and she's doing an okay job. But I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that actress in general.
I'm not.
She's from Game of Thrones. She's from Game of Thrones. So.
It is. Lucifer is a disappointment. Lucifer is a ding. It's a real shame because Lucifer, those sequences in hell, and I saw the sequences in which Morpheus goes to hell and he strikes the bargain with Lucifer. And it's such a great sequence in the comic books, and you could tell like where they're saving budgets because like. The iconic sequence in which Lucifer and Morpheus interact, and he's like, "What is hell without the dream of heaven?" Is so awesome because they're on like this Sam Keithian impossible rock, and they're looking over the hordes of hell. And in the show, they're in a room that's made of CG, and they're just like, "Listen to them out there. Don't look at them because it would be too expensive to show it, but listen to them."
Yeah,
and maybe we can show them for like a shot, but like it's too expensive. And I'm like. That's why comics kind of win because it's like, oh, look at this shot that would cost $60 million just to show you for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, and in the show, they're like, oh, and it loses that gravitas.
I was fine with Lucifer being, I'm not sure what Lucifer is in the comics, but in the show, Lucifer being this woman. I assumed Lucifer was your more traditional rendition of Lucifer.
Lucifer is the dude who you see in Vertigo books called Lucifer. Like, it's the same Lucifer.
Oh, it's the same guy in the Lucifer show?
Well, it's not that Lucifer. No.
Oh, I mean, the show took a different direction with it, but that in concept, same guy.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well then I can see a little argument with that. But the actress, I wasn't a big fan of her in Game of Thrones.
No.
And I feel like seeing her here, I'm like, so she can just do that.
Right.
I'm large and imposing. Like, that's what she can do. And I feel like Lucifer should have more emotion here. Like,
Yeah. No, I agree. Lucifer is a great character and a really fun, like, that's such a fun scene. And if it's not sold,
yeah,
it's not worth doing.
But when it came to Death, I thought Death did a great job. I loved that sequence. So how do you feel about the swaps and your opinions on it as someone who does know traditional Sandman?
Sometimes I'm a purist when it comes to comic depictions. Death is one of those characters that is so visually iconic. Like, we have had that image of Death since, like, 91. Like, since, like, she was introduced. And... Yeah.
She is an iconic image. That's why I brought her up in particular.
Right. Well,
because Morpheus and Death are the two that you always see when referencing
the ones. Like,
Sandman
if you're gonna do a Sandman movie show adaptation, like, those are the two you can't screw up.
Right, and I like even with Lucifer, I have no idea what Lucifer looks like in the comic. I didn't realize there was Lucifer and Corinthian and all these other characters.
Oh yeah.
But I knew about Morpheus and Death. Like those are the two.
Corinthian's doing a great job. They're overdoing the character, but he's doing a fantastic job. Like the actor who plays Corinthian is awesome. And I have seen the Death episode. Thank you very much, people in the comments who are complaining about it already. But like,
they've got scenes of Death floating everywhere, guys. You can see how Death is being portrayed.
I've seen it. Yeah. But like, and I think that the actor who plays Death is great, and I think she does a fantastic job. And it's through no fault of her own that people are complaining. Like it is not her; it is people's biases and expectations. That said, was I a little disappointed that we don't get that one? Yeah, because
but you're also disappointed we didn't get Morpheus Death. I mean, Morpheus.
Exactly. Like that's the thing is, I have the same complaint about Death that I do about Morpheus, where it's like I want to see that one, like moving around and doing their thing. The one who plays the actress who plays Death now, she's playing Death and she's doing a great job. And I think I know that right before this they did the audio drama, and unfortunately it seems like Gaiman was like, well, I did the audio drama, and that was the most comic accurate. And so I want to do something a little differently, so I'm going to stray from the comic accuracy. And it's like, man, damn. Like, then don't do the audio show. But Kat Dennings played Death on the audio drama, and it's like, I could see Kat... Right, and I could see Kat Dennings physically playing the 90s punk rock version of Death, but her acting wasn't so hot on the audio drama. So, well then, it doesn't mean we need a white girl to play her. It just means, like, that... I have an idea of what Death looks like because that's what she looks like in the comic books, but it's also cemented in the time period. Like Death does not in the old Hobb episode or book. Shouldn't look like she ain't wearing an ankh and a tank top in like in the 1300s or whatever, right? Like she's wearing a period accurate outfit. And so as such, I assume that Death is wearing what Death thinks is cool in 1991. And so if you're going to set the show in 2021, she's going to look differently. But
that was actually one of my favorite things about the Hobb portion of the episode.
Yeah.
Morpheus's hair changing with every time period.
yeah, it's cool. Like, all right, that's smart. But
so much budget in that one episode.
Yeah. But like, was I disappointed? There's a little bit of disappointment where I'm like, I kind of wanted to see those two comic book characters come to life on the screen. There's something really cool about like the punk rock 90s Death that I just wanted to see. You're basically getting that in this, and so and the actor's doing such a good job. I'm not really that disappointed about it. It's more just like I was expecting this. You gave me this. That's fine. So yeah, like no complaints really at all. Especially, and then what's funny is I've made this argument before where it's like if you released a movie in which there was a bunch of Marines who go to a planet to kill a bunch of aliens, and then this woman shows up, and she's like a science officer, and she survives out of all of them, and like because of like one quick lesson with a pulse rifle from one Marine, like she learns how to use it and like shoot grenades, and she saves a girl, and at the end she's the only one who makes it. Like, that's woke. It's like, that's Aliens, man. That movie came out in 86.
I know.
Like any movie, comic book, something that came out well, that's part of my childhood, so that's safe. But like, only if it comes out now, it's woke. But like, Desire of the Endless, is non-binary, is androgynous, is a they-them.
Yeah.
Back then.
When Desire first showed up, I was like, I'm confused. Like, because when Desire first shows up, it's like a one-off line, and I'm like, okay, I don't.
Right. Okay, I get it. Esoteric concepts are people. Yeah, okay.
Right. Well, the whole idea is like, esoteric concept, like the whole embodiment of things. So right off the bat, I'm like, well, they wouldn't really have genders or things like that properly unless they choose to. Like, that's how they would be in this kind. Because you're not real. You're not. You're
That's the thing, right?
Physical embodiment of something that doesn't exist.
But in the comic books, like, they were very certain. They were like, no, Desire is they them, and
well,
and is androgynous, and it's like
their first two appearances of Desire was one-off lines at the end of episodes.
Yes.
And when I first saw it, I was like, is that supposed to be male, female, non-binary?
Like,
what is that? And that's obviously what they were going for. They want you to be. Wait, what?
Not even confused, but like the desire.
Not confused in a bad way, but like.
No, but like, what am I thinking? But like, honestly, like, desire is non-preferential. Like, the both men, women, anyone has desire. So desire doesn't have a like.
And it makes sense once we start discovering who that is.
Oh,
like, that's desire. That's what we're doing here.
Right. No, it's great.
So,
but that's in there. There are trans characters in Sandman. Like, there are gay people in Sandman. Like, this is a book that was like pushing boundaries 35 years ago.
Yeah.
That people are not even able to talk about competently today. And it's like, it is a book that is very like timeless and contemporary. So
my
I'm
problem
glad
with
to
Neil
see
Gaiman.
Yeah.
My issue with Neil Gaiman has always been I've always felt Neil Gaiman's just ahead of his time.
Yeah.
He's always thinking 20 years in the future how he wants to portray his stories and stuff like that. Like, this will fit better in 20 years, you know?
Right. Well, the fact that, like, I mean, well, he didn't think to set Sandman in the future, but he did have the element of time be a big thematic element in that whole series. But I haven't seen the diner scene. I really want to see that because it's like it's so messed up. And the comic book, as I understand, I know the comic book one. It's so
in the
crazy.
Episode. That was the first one that I realized we're kind of watching a anthology with just a through line, as opposed to like every episode. Like, okay, I didn't see episode 2 of She-Hulk, but I know it probably runs the same exact thing as Moon Knight and all those.
It
where
carries
every
over.
episode, like it's a continual storyline. We're going to keep going. We're not introducing new elements. We're just continuing with the main plot.
Yes.
But Sandman, like, it has no issues just spending 10 minutes talking to Joanna and explaining how Joanna Constantine's relationship with the person that she left the sand with is ruined, and doesn't have any issues spending half an episode dealing with Hob to learn a lesson about friendship that has nothing to do with sand, rubies, or a mask.
No.
And the diner scene is when I first realized that, because the diner scene is like 40 minutes of no Morpheus.
No.
It's just these people having issues and how John is manipulating them with the ruby. And I'm like, that's he's not ending the world. He's just slightly tweaking things around him.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
That's what this show is. These the little moments between everything. It's not a superhero drama. It's a drama that just Morpheus shows up and affects people with.
Right, exactly. It's what McFarlane wants Spawn to be.
Yeah.
But it doesn't quite work. That, by the way, like, this is the thing where it's like, I can't believe that, like, how late HBO Max / DC Universe was to the party when, like, Netflix developed this show. Because can you imagine a Warner Brothers developed show? Dr. Destiny escapes from Arkham Asylum. John is Dr. Destiny, a supervillain in the Arkham universe. Like, in the Batman universe. Like, he talks to Jonathan Crane's Scarecrow before he leaves. Like, it's there are Martian Manhunter goes to a funeral in this book. Like, this is John Constantine is a major as a character in this world. It would be cool to see it, because as much as Sandman is considered to be like an independent book, and it's like it works. All these things that are divorced from DC, I think work. You know, like, John works as a character all by himself. It doesn't need to be connected to Dr. Destiny. He doesn't have to look like a skull face with a blue cape. Like, we don't need that. But
well, I think one of the best things that makes Sandman kind of cool is that it did exist in the DC universe, but at the same time it didn't. The DC universe has always had those otherworldly extra things. So things like Sandman and Morpheus and Dream and, and Death and Desire, all that stuff fits.
Right.
Because DC's always done that kind of a thing. I mean, this is a universe that has a source wall, and you know what I mean? Like,
no, there's a lot of elements that, like, DC's a big place with a lot of room. But it's a shame that we can't connect them. Not to the movies or anything, just like we can't have it be part of it.
But I also think it fits separate. It fits in
helps.
its own universe, its own thing.
It allows them to
while I'd
make-
love to see John Constantine in there, and
Yeah.
I'd love to see Martian Manhunter show up at the same time, it works that they're not.
It's fine. It's very fine. The show, I think, survives better without them. But it is a damn shame that Constantine can't be in it.
So the last question I have for you then is: are you going to finish watching the whole season, or are you and Tiff kind of like, we're good?
I mean, we're a little like, it's a show where it's like, oh, we could choose to watch it or not, and I know what happens, and I have the better version of it, in a book,
Right?
But it's good. Like it's not bad, but the shame is it's not like it's a visual masterpiece, and it's like, well, even if it is like taking liberties with the source material and we can't have everything in it, like it looks so stunning. Like it looks good, but it's not stunning. It's not
Right.
It's not transcendental. It doesn't it's not like all the changes and all of the derivations that we've made from the source material are worth it because this thing is incredible. The best thing it has going for it is that hopefully it gets more people to buy the comic book and read it, because that is the like primary source. It was written and made to be a comic book, and it was after like a few years Gaiman's desire to develop into other media because he has aspirations other than comic books. And, like I cite Mirror Mask and, what's that other one with Charlie Cox in it? Stardust. And,
there is something that he wrote a long time ago that I really enjoyed, and I can't remember the name of it.
He's written a bunch, especially...
No, it was a TV show. I watched it as a kid.
Oh, yeah?
I'm hoping I can find it. Neverwhere.
Oh, yes.
I watched that and was like, this is pretty cool. What the hell is this? That's like one of my first introductions to Neil Gaiman's work.
Yeah. Neverwhere.
So, Neverwhere is, it's hard to, I don't even remember what it's truly about, but it's like an underworld in like the bottom of London, and it's just so weird.
Yeah, I will check that out. I've heard of it, but I don't know it.
It's an urban fantasy television series. The series is set in London below, a magical realm coexisting with a more familiar London known as London above.
Okay.
I mean, it's one of his earlier works. Come on.
Oh, it was probably great then,
But it's got like Peter Capaldi in it.
Yeah.
It's really good. I liked it. So
Yeah. And I by the way, I don't. It's not like everything that he adapts is something I don't like. Like I grew up reading Good Omens because I was like really into religion, and I found that like that subversive humor really incredible. And it took forever, but we got a show, and I liked it a lot. I liked the show Good Omens, and I actually think it might like
I always meant to watch that, but it kind of like one of those shows that came out and then went away.
Yeah, well, nobody
oh.
talked about it because like who cares? But I liked it a lot. It was a very, and it took liberties too, but it was a fun adaptation. I was very pleased with it.
Okay.
But yeah.
And for those wondering why I haven't blitzed on Sandman, is because 3 shows started at the exact same time, and Natalie and I are also watching an anime. So we kind of
traveled. Like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, so we're kind of bouncing between that, Kevin Can Fuck Himself, which is this really weird show that we've been watching. I think I've mentioned it before. I won't go into it here because it's crazy. But and then we're also watching Rise of the Shield Hero. So we're kind of like bouncing between 3 shows at the moment. And then on top of that, popping movies on. So. Right. But all right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you really enjoyed our take on this, we can come back to it whenever Sal and I both finish the show.
So, yeah, we can do like a look back and do the whole show afterwards.
It could be like a week. It could be a month. I don't know how long it's going to take us both to get through it, but we can have a look at it. This isn't on our priority list like our other shows.
No, it's true.
So, but if you guys enjoy this, let us know. Don't forget to check us out in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you want to support this channel and keep it going, consider joining our YouTube memberships for exclusive shows. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.